Hello everyone, I'm Joe Ackourey, and welcome to the Fly of the Week. For this episode, episode 46, I'll be tying the Mickey Fin Streamer. The Mickey Fin Streamer is pretty much an attractor fly. Um, Works great early to mid-season. Trout love them. Brooks, browns, and rainbows can't seem to get enough of this pattern. And I've also caught some warm water species on this fly, on this streamer. Smallmouth bass, uh, pickerel, bluegills. So, yeah, definitely add this one to your arsenal. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, guys, here we go. The Mickey Fin Streamer. Pretty much an attractor bait fish pattern that works really well for trout and the warmer water species like smallmouth bass, bluegills, pickerel, and so forth. All right, so let's get started here. Place the hook in the vise, making sure that the shank of the hook is relatively parallel with the tabletop, and begin to cover the entire shank of the hook, starting from the eye and wrapping back. Just take your time. Wrap back until you get to, right where the shank and the bend meet. So I got to go back a little further. All right, that's pretty close. Yeah, not bad. Now, the first material we're placing on this hook, build this fly, is oval tinsel, fine oval tinsel. And what we're going to do is we're going to attach this to that sweet spot that we found right back there and place the remainder in my material clip. But notice I left a long tag here. I'm going to wrap this all the way up the shank of the hook, so that whatever materials I place on top of this body is going to be a nice smooth transition. Like, in other words, if I cut this off, tied it down there and cut off the excess, when I go to put the next material on, there's going to be a little divot there, and I'm going to eliminate that by doing this step here. Don't crowd your eye, guys, with the material. Now return your thread back to the sweet spot we found earlier, right where the shank and the bend meet. And now it's time to build the body, and we're going to use wide Mylar silver tinsel. And we're going to repeat that same process. This might be a little tricky attaching because it's pretty wide, but that wasn't too bad. Go up the shank with that now. Just like that. Not bad. Looking good. Don't crowd the eye again. And I'll return my thread back. Let's check to see if we're in the same alignment with the oval and there's no thread underneath that. Let's get a little closer look here. I'm not seeing any. That's good. So place your, just as a precaution, I'm going to wrap a couple wraps back and then go up the shank and start wrapping my silver body. I'm going to pull quite hard on this silver tinsel, almost to the point where it's stretching, and I want a nice smooth body here. Hold on to the hook so you don't rip it out of the vise as you're wrapping forward, and just slightly overlap, taking your time, going up closer and closer to the tie down point or the capture point. Okay, almost there. This is usually when I make a mistake and let the tinsel slip out of my hand. But hey, that's part of it. Okay, we made it. Whew. Now, secure that. And again, I'm putting a lot of tension on this tinsel and the hook. I'm going to secure that with 4 more wraps, total of about 8, 9, 10. Clip off the excess. Notice I didn't crowd the eye. There's plenty of room there. Now I'm going to grab the oval tinsel and begin to wrap equally spaced wraps around the Mylar body. And this oval tinsel gives it a nice effect. It adds a little bit of depth to the body, little 3D you know, look to it. And just be careful as you're wrapping this. Try to get them equally spaced. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be close. Almost there. Okay, we made it. Now secure that with 5 or 6 good wraps. Okay, clip off your excess. So in review, we have the first material we put in for this Mickey fin was the oval tinsel. We tied that in, and the excess was wrapped all the way up the shank, so that we achieved whatever materials we put on that, we achieved a nice smooth body, as you could see, really nice. Then on top of that, we began to wrap the oval tinsel, which tried to get, you know, equally spaced wraps and fastening it down just like we did for the you know, the end point where to complete the body. So the next step is to attach the deer hair. Now the deer tail we're going to start with is the yellow. It's a combination of yellow and then a layer of red and then another layer of yellow. And we're going to select a bunch of yellow, approximately equal to about 1/3 of the gap. Close. It's hard to eyeball it, especially after you tie it down and get skinnier, but I'm happy with that amount. So these are the natural ends. These are to soon be the cut ends. Cut ends, natural ends. We're going to put those natural ends inside my hair stacker to give them a little bit better alignment. We're going to slide that in there carefully. We're going to give them a little bit of tap in here to even out all the ends. Now, we know that the natural ends are inside this hair stacker, and I want to orient the hair stacker in the direction that the natural ends are going. So for this fly, the natural ends are going to be jetting out to the back here. These are the cut ends. I'm going to draw them out slowly. We got one little long one there. We'll get rid of that one. And we're going to lay this deer hair on top of the shank of the hook. This is deer tail. Natural ends, cut ends are in between my fingers. And we're going to make the length of the wing about a full gap past the hook, the entire hook. So we're going to get as best alignment as we can, and we're going to then clamp down on that spot, or we're going to fasten it down. We're going to wrap about 7 or 8 equally 7 or 8 wraps to lock this down. Got a couple wild ones sliding off, and you want to try to keep this on top of the shank. There we go. It's not an easy task with deer hair, but let's just take a peek. Yeah, I got a couple that drifted there, so I'm going to repeat that process. Take it off and try it again. Let's carefully take that off. Remeasure. There we go. I'm going to pinch that pretty hard. And our goal is to keep that on top of the shank as best as we can. We're going to get a couple that drift, but we can address that when we're finished. Let's see how we did now. That's a lot better. Now, we fastened down the first layer of deer hair. I got a wild one here I'm going to get rid of. And now I want to cut this excess off. But notice the eye of the hook has an angle to it. I'm going to rest my scissors on that perfect angle, and using the back of my scissors, I'm going to give it a clip, and there we go. There's our first layer. Put a couple more securing wraps there, and make sure that we're still on top of that shank. Good. Now you want to return your thread right to the back of those wraps for the first layer, and then you're going to add a bunch of red. Now the red I like to use as the dominant color, so I'm going to go a little bit heavier than a third. And I'm going to clip off the bunch that I selected. It's a nice bunch. Again, natural ends, cut ends. I'm going to place the natural ends inside the hair stacker. I hope everyone can see this. Slide that in carefully. And just give it a couple taps, you know. Get that alignment. You want a nice alignment. Again, I'm going to orient the hair stacker in the direction I want the natural ends going. And obviously we want the natural ends going jetting out back, so these are the cut ends and the natural ends are inside the hair stacker. I'm going to carefully draw them out. I got a nice alignment there. Got a yellow one in there somehow. And then I'm going to match the length of the previous bunch. Get them as close as possible. Again, I have my yellow underneath is my bottom wing. My mid wing is the red. And now I'm going to attach that carefully. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wraps. And notice that my thread alignment for both layers is almost identical. You want that to be perfect. And what I mean by that is your first layer was wrapped and the wraps were visible, these tie-down wraps. Now the second layer, there should be a straight line going straight down to the first layer. You don't want, you know, multiple thread alignments. It looks terrible. So now repeat that process of using the hook as your guide with your scissors and clip that off. It slid a little bit, but I'll realign that. Looks good. Put a couple fastening wraps down. Okay. Now for yellow again. Let's get some yellow in there. The yellow is the top and bottom of this wing. So we're going to grab a bunch of yellow. Again, a small bunch, smaller than the red. And there's my bunch. I'm going to cut it off. We're going to repeat the process of stacking it. Put the natural ends in the hair stacker. Give it a couple taps. Orient the hair stacker in the direction you want the wing to go, so the natural ends jet out to the back, like so. There we are. Pull out any hairs that are not cooperating with the main group. I have a couple there. And lay that right on top. Excuse me 1 second here. Let's see here. Okay. And make sure the alignment is pretty close. Now, let's just emphasize about what I was talking about earlier with the thread alignment. This is what I'm talking about. So, you know, now you could see multiple layers, multiple lines. I hope you guys can see this. There's a line that's fastening down the top bunch, but the other two are perfect. You want to bring this alignment back here. So I was just using that to give you guys a little bit more knowledge on tying these streamer heads. So that looks good. Now, a little bit further back actually. That's critical. You want that alignment to be perfect. Clip off this bunch of the, the excess. Again, we use the hook angle to help us with that. And now the remainder of this is covering up the excess. It's a little bit of a task. You just got to build up the thread and align it with the rest of the fly, with the rest of the wing. There you go. Just getting there. Just got to cover up all that material without getting too out of proportion. That's that little area there I want to cover, and make sure our alignment is perfect. It's not bad. Okay, I'm going to pick up on the wing a little bit just to get it flared up a little bit. So now I'm going to tie my finishing knot. Oh. There we go. Get a little drop of head cement in there. Make sure that head is covered, and I kind of sometimes draw it back along the whole fly. That looks pretty good. Looks pretty good, guys. The key, the main takeaway when you're tying these layered flies is you want the color in the middle, like the red, you want it to bleed through both sides of the fly, and we achieved that perfectly. This is a heck of a good fly, early to mid-season. Trout love it. And again, some of the warmer water species like smallmouth bass, bluegills, and pickerel, they'll jump on this fly, I'm telling you. It's another fly you want to add to your arsenal, guys. So thank you so much for joining me today on the Fly of the Week, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode. Tight lines, guys.